Welcome to this week's Harness Racing Alumni Show. I'm Freddie Hudson, and I'm here as always with Trade Martin and Bob Marks. This week's Harness Racing Alumni Show is sponsored by Winbak Farm Canada's newest staffing, Captain's Quarters. The son of Captain Treacherous is standing his first season with a stud fee of $5,000 Canadian. For more information or to book a breeding, call 905-838-2145 or email stallions@winbakfarm.com. Captain's Quarters. Also, the Meadowlands Racetrack. Visit playthemeadowlands.com. And Hunterton Farm, breeding champions year after year. Visit huntertonfarm.com. For more than 4 decades, one name has stood above the rest in harness racing: John Campbell. A Hall of Fame driver, a champion, and one of the greatest to ever sit behind a standardbred. From the Hamiltonian to the Meadowlands Pace, John Campbell captured the sport's biggest races and became a legend both on and off the track. Now, the U.S. Harness Racing Alumni is proud to present a special tribute celebrating the incredible career and legacy of John Campbell. We're inviting businesses, organizations, horsemen, fans, and friends of harness racing to become a sponsor of this very special tribute. Help us honor a true legend of the sport and ensure his remarkable story is shared with harness racing fans everywhere. Become a sponsor of the John Campbell Tribute today. For sponsorship information, contact the U.S. Harness Racing Alumni at ustrots.com or call 631-896-9838. Joining us in celebrating a career and accomplishments and the legacy of John Campbell, one of harness racing's greatest all-time greats.
The Harness Racing Alumni Show with your hosts, Freddie Hudson and Trade Martin.
Joining us today, we have 2 distinguished guests and possibly a third one joining us later. We have Rick Berks, who is a standardbred breeder and owner, and basically has one of the top 2-year-old colts in the country right now. And we have Steve Stewart, one of our top breeders in the sport of harness racing, and also the breeder of Rick's horse. Steve and Rick, welcome to the Harness Racing Alumni Show.
Glad to join you,
sir.
Okay, Rick, Gobstopper. Let's talk about the name. How did you come up with that name?
You got to talk to Steve about that. They named him.
The name came from our secretary, who enjoys. We have obviously quite a few yearlings to name each year or whatever, and so she enjoys trying to think of kind of clever names or whatever to apply to the yearlings. And Gobstopper, which I had no idea what it was, and Rick didn't either, comes from the movie Willy Wonka. And in the movie, they talk about this type of candy that the chocolate factory makes. And Gobstopper is, and you can Google it or whatever, and she did it for me this morning because I had never seen the movie. And he's giving the kids candy, and it talks about the fact that he said these are everlasting. That, in other words, if you lick them or whatever, and like normal candy, they'll never dissolve. And so what was really comical was our secretary said that she was, I don't know if she was watching, I think she was there that night when the colt sold, and the auctioneer even said Gobstopper everlasting, because that's how Gene Wilder referred to the candy that he was giving out to the children. So that's where the name came from, and obviously he's a Sweet Lou, and that's where she was trying to think of sweet, candy, and then came up with Gobstopper.
Right, and Gobstopper just went in 150-2 at the Meadowlands last week. Rick, tell us a little bit about this horse and what are your plans with him?
Well, we'll back up a little bit. Along the Gobstopper, as Steve said, I wasn't sure what it was either. And my wife's big in the theater, and as soon as I told her the name of a horse that I bought, I said, the name's kind of weird. She goes, oh, that's from Willy Wonka. I love that. So that's how I didn't change it. So that's how that came about, and it remained his name. When we went up, Pete Blood, longtime friend and trainer, and I was just telling Steve before we came on air that we drove out to his farm and we're looking at a few horses, and he was one of them, and we really liked him. He was kind of a big, gangly-looking stallion at the time, but he looked like he'd fill out pretty well. So we really liked him, and went to the sale. Pete wasn't there, but Steve and I went around. He liked him. But the funny thing about Steve, he doesn't like horses with a lot of chrome on them. So that was the only drawback. But we all liked him. So that was one that we really wanted. And Pete kept telling me, "That's my pick of the sale." So he did good. But that's how all that came about. And then I sent him down to Sunshine Meadows with Mike Dieters. And when I first got there, I went out there and they were looking at me like, "Gobstopper, what's that?" Well, don't you know Mike's younger son who helps him out there? He goes, "That's from Willy Wonka." He knew exactly what it was. So it was interesting. So we're all us old guys are going, "What are they talking about?" But yeah, I was younger. Anyway, that was kind of funny. But started training, and he was, I think he was a May foal, late foal. But the other thing that happened down there that you may or may not have heard of, that Mickey McNichol was helping Mike Dieters and jogging horses, and he was out there jogging Gobstopper. I wasn't there, and so I can't tell you exactly what happened, but somehow the horse stumbled, and Mickey just jogging him and flipped over the horse and ended up underneath the horse. The horse was sitting on him down there for several minutes. But didn't move or thrash or anything, or would have killed him. And then Mickey ended up in the hospital, and it was very, bad scene for a little while there, but he came out of it okay. He's probably listening right now, Mickey. You'll have to tell the story better than me, but it was his tail keeps growing. It was pretty one of those crazy things that happened, and I don't even know how. But then we got him back up to New York and Tioga, and Mike he did a great job training him. And but Steve, you'll be able to see him at the Red Mile because I shipped him out to Kentucky. We're going to race him in the Kentucky Sires.
That's great. Yeah, they race for a lot of money down here, that's for sure. So hopefully you'll get your fair share, as they say. That would be great. But I was asking the guys today about him, growing up or whatever, but they said that he was just a nice colt. Really didn't turn a hair. He never really bothered anybody. The ones you remember are the ones that are usually bad or hard to catch or problems, or they've got idiosyncrasies that might drive you crazy. But they said he was just a nice colt. It was easy to remember him because it blazed on his face like most Sweet Lou's. But and he sold for $75,000, which was good. The interesting thing about the colt is he's the 11th foal of a mare called Captiva Island that I have in partnership with Victor Zayer from Indiana. And I think it was one of the first mares he and I ever partnered up on or whatever. And we've had great success with the mare. If you look her up, you'll see that I don't know if she's ever even missed. They weren't all champions, but the first one was probably one of the best ones. He made about $800,000, and hopefully Gobstopper will do the same. So she's pretty much at retirement age. She's 22 now or whatever, and we tried breeding her this year, and she did not get in foal. She has a tattoo artist by her side at the moment, and colt that looks nice. So it's always funny where some trainers and owners will kind of go, have their criteria of the do's and don'ts on yearlings. But, I guarantee you there was a lot of people that probably said, he's a nice colt, but he's 11th foal of an old mare. I don't buy yearlings out of old mares. But those old mares will prove you wrong more than right sometimes when they, and Gobstopper is an example.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have my own experience with that, Steve. And you're right. A lot of people, the 11th foal, a lot of people shy away from that. People I've talked to, but I had an experience a few years back where and I kind of thought the same way. I think Pete thought that the same way. And we were at the sale, and we're bidding on a horse you might remember, Dosadoro Hanover. And I want to say he was 11th or 12th foal. And I had his half-brother, Duop, years ago. So, of course, we were following him, and we're bidding on him. And Pete was kind of like, yeah, you know, he's 11th foal. I don't know. So I ended up stop bidding, and the hammer dropped on the next bid. Ronnie Burke bought him and ended up winning the Breeders' Crown. That was the last time I worried about whether they were 11th or 12th foal. So that taught me a lesson.
You know, bringing up Ronnie Burke, didn't the USDA contact you about a couple years ago, thinking that you were Ronnie Burke? No,
that's never happened.
Oh, I thought that they did.
Names are spelled different. And he's a lot better known than I am.
And I thought you had to correct it, but maybe I was dreaming it. So, so now you brought the colt back to Kentucky, and you're going to race him in Kentucky now?
Yeah, he's going to go in the Sires Stakes here, and then see how he does there. I actually have 2 Sweet Lou's that should be racing in the at the top level, or a Blazing Lou, and then who's done pretty well, but I think the big track will help him a lot. And then Gobstopper here, I just love his big long stride, so I wanted to get him we took him up to Meadowlands, and I mean I knew he felt like he was pretty good. You know, it's early. We're probably over talking this horse. He's had 3 races, but it's pretty stunning. If you watch the race, it was like he did it so easy. And then when he got back to the winter circle, Mike Dieters, when I talked to him the next day, he told me, Rick, he couldn't blow out a candle when he got back to the winter circle. So he was pretty impressive, but there's a long way to go.
Yeah, he's a season leader currently right now.
It's what makes people play the game. You know, the hopes and you buy a yearling for $75,000, and I always get a kick out of people when they say that they bought a yearling, and when they buy it, they said, "Oh my gosh, I had to pay $75,000." And then if they end up being a gobstopper and end up being a really good one, then the phrase changes to "I only paid $75,000." So it's pretty comical. It's pretty comical how the horses will decide the phrase that you use to describe what they cost. They're always very expensive, and everybody, you know, you always have to remember it's the down payment. That's only the down payment is the purchase price, and then the bills start. But yeah, the good part is that being a Sweet Lou, he could be another Confederate. You never know. That's the exciting part. That's the exciting part.
Rick, do you have any partners with him?
No, it's just me.
No? Okay.
On that one.
I was just curious over there.
What else is he eligible to after Kentucky?
Well, he's eligible to the Bluegrass and International, and that's the only. I only start them like usually anywhere from 9-10 starts babies. And I had originally thought we'd race him in Pennsylvania, not expecting him to do what he's done. And as you know, the money's pretty good in Kentucky. Not that it's terrible in Pennsylvania, but it's even better in Kentucky. But I just thought it's much to Mike Dieter's disappointment, because he really wanted to race him, of course. But I decided to move him back out there, because there's no shipping. We're right at the Red Mile. My farm's 20 minutes away. I can turn him out whenever. So he doesn't have to make these long ships out to the Meadows or back to Chester. So that was a big factor. But I told Mike the main reason is I'll be there several months this summer and I can watch him. So, but he's just he's eligible to both the Grand Circuit at the Red Mile there, and then if he continues on this path, I'll probably have to supplement him into the Breeders' Crown.
Wouldn't that would be a nice problem?
Yeah, that's well, it's funny. Before when I was doing the staking, or else I don't know how or why I got on a phone call with Eric Cherry, and I said, Eric, what are you doing? He said, I'm staking horses, and he said, if I staked all my horses to the Breeders' Crown, I'd have to win it to break even. And I said, well, that just tells me you got too many horses. But then I started doing it, and there was probably 4 or 5 of them that I wanted to, thinking I'd, stake them to the Crown. But the chances of any of them making it is long enough. More than one of them was really long. So just doing the math, I figured it's probably cheaper to stake, just to supplement one in and to try to stake every one of these. So that's just how that happened.
Rick, how many horses are in your stable right now?
In the state racing or with the farm?
With the farm and the racing.
Probably 60 somewhere. I don't know exactly, but something like that.
Okay, and the racing side?
I think there's about 20 that are solely mine, and another half dozen that I'm partners with Steve Elliott and Jerry Glantz and Bill Salmari, a few other guys. So total around 25 racing, and then we've got, let's see, seven yearlings out there that several of them I really like. Rockstar Melinda, who's the dam of a couple of homebred fillies that I've had some fun with, Roxy, and her full sister, Little Rockstar, who didn't really race as a 2-year-old, but she's doing very well at a Plain Ridge right now. So, but I have a Bulldog Hanover filly out of her that's gorgeous. So, and a few other ones that I really like. So we'll see what happens.
Okay. We wish you a lot of luck with them.
Thank you.
How does it work when whether you're going to be 100% or partnership, or does it just happen?
Most of the time, I don't usually take on a lot of partners.
Yep. Right. That sounds like Gordon just joined us.
Gordon's late as usual.
Hi, Gordon.
Gordon Banks, welcome.
Thanks, Freddie. Sorry to be so late.
Well, we had a total screw up today, all on me. So, so you're on with Rick and Steve and myself right now.
It's a bad connection. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, loud and clear, Gordon. But to answer your question, I've got a handful of partners, and I'm kind of don't anxiously look for partners. I don't I have to work around other people's agendas. But the people that I'm partners with, I've been with several horses over the and it's always worked out pretty good. So I kept a limited number. I use a couple of trotters. I have a piece of with Steve. But a lot of the ones that I have just a piece of, I'm just along for the ride. I just let them make decisions. But like I said, the majority of all mine I just own exclusively.
Well, I think my opinion is that if you're with Steve Elliott, you're in good company.
Yeah, he's probably the best horseman. How he's not in the Hall of Fame is, I don't know, unexplainable. But he's a heck of a horseman.
He really is. Well, and he's got the right attitude and just a really good guy, in addition to being talented.
Yes, he is. He's had some health problems a little bit lately, so it's kept him out of Kentucky. He's hoping he gets up there pretty soon.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Hey, Gordon, I'm going to ask you a quick question. Now, Rick has a really nice 2-year-old colt right now. He's a season leader with a record of 150 and 2. The horse is named Gobstopper. Do you know anything about that name?
I'm sorry, such a bad connection, Freddie. What was the last part of what you asked me?
If you know anything about the name Gobstopper, where it came from.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's an awfully nice horse.
Okay. Rick or Steve, you want to tell him where the name came from?
That's Steve's job.
Wait a minute, I can't. I tell you the truth, I can't. Let me call you right back in because this connection is so bad. I only hear about one out of every 3 words.
No problem.
Okay.
I'll call you right back.
No problem.
I figured I'd ask. I figured I'd ask him that question just to see whether he would do it.
Well, I hope that as the summer goes and gets into the fall that that question will be asked more and more. How's that? That's the hope.
Yeah, I hope I'm handing out jawbreakers at the Breeders' Crown.
There you go. There you go. There you go. That's exactly right.
You know how they
we just came up with a promotional idea.
Yeah, you know how they throw the things out of the cars to the stands?
Well, if you make enough money, I think with him, hopefully you can start handing them out.
Yeah, well, we could probably afford those anytime, but...
I would say you're probably right. But what is your criteria when it comes to buying yearlings? Is it what they're eligible to, or sire, or is it a combination, or just the individual itself?
I don't focus on all those things. I mean, I don't. We go through the whole book and over, and there's everybody sees something different when they're looking at horses and look for something different. And I tell, like, Jerry Glantz, I'm sure you guys know him. He's very knowledgeable and pedigrees and things. But I tell him, I know what over the years I've learned what he looks at. And when I told him, but you would never have looked at a horse like Bojangles, because he didn't ever follow. He's people follow the horses and sires that they know and have had sex with, and I think that'd be the same with Odds on Achilles and Odds on Mr. Mamba. There's a lot of horses he wouldn't look at because certain sires or breeds he doesn't like. So I look at everything. I know Steve does too. Pete spends a lot of time looking at them. Not that Jerry doesn't. I'm just saying he favors certain breeds and pedigrees much more than others, and I'm not as selective that way.
Yeah, it's always interesting. It's always interesting when people come to the farm, and we basically, we sell about 150 at the 2 sales, and
hello, Freddie.
Yep.
Sorry, now I can hear it. I'm here, and actually now this time if you ask me a question, I'll actually hear it.
Well, the question was. Go ahead, Steve.
The question is, do you know what Gobstopper, where that comes from, the name?
Gobstopper? No.
Well, us older people don't see Gobstopper, but I didn't know, Cindy didn't know, Rick didn't know, most of us.
I didn't know.
Guys don't. But my secretary had named the horse because of Sweet Lou. She was thinking of the sweet part and came up with a candy. And in the movie Willy Wonka, there's a scene in there where Willy Wonka is giving away candy, and it's called a Gobstopper. And the Gobstopper, supposedly it's magic because the kids, when they lick the candy, it never goes away. And even to the point where when the auctioneer said, and now entering the ring is Gobstopper, everlasting, because the candy would never go away. But it's kind of a name that if you asked 100 people, maybe 50 of them younger, they would know exactly what you're talking about and can't understand why other people don't know what it means. It's kind of an interesting horse name that it brings out opinions.
It's a good name. It brings out the
generation. How could you never heard of it?
It brings out the generational difference.
Exactly.
Yeah, the generational difference. Right. Yeah.
But it's an interesting name, that's for sure. It's easy to remember, that's for sure. But
well, then there's the older, much older people, which I'm now sadly a part of, where we saw the movie, but we don't remember anything.
Oh, that's a good point.
Well, I'm glad you pointed that out.
Your grandkids. It's all fun. That's great. That's great.
Hey, Gordon, didn't your horse Twisted Destiney just win?
Yeah, he's won 2 in a row. We sent him out to Ohio with Virgil Morgan, and he's done a great job with the horse. And he's trying to teach him to leave better, because he always was a really good horse, but he was he had a disadvantage because he didn't show a lot of gate speed. And so Virgil loves him, and he's teaching him to leave better. And he thinks if he can really get him to that point, that he's going to be a hard horse to beat. We'll see. Yeah, it's a game of hope, right? So, yeah, he's a very nice horse.
And what are your plans with him right now?
Well, he's staked in. He seems to be a horse who's best on a 5/8 mile track. So he's staked in the Ewart if he gets in it. He's staked in the Breeders' Crown. He's staked in the Dayton Derby, and that's all we put him in as a 4-year-old. There's a limit to what he could do, and we're hoping that he'll pop up as a big time horse next year. But we're trying to build him up this year. 4-year, tough year, a 4-year-old year. He's actually been pretty good as a 4-year-old. We put him in the Borgata at the start of the year, and he was competitive. He had bad posts every time, or he would have had probably a win. I think he had a second and a third. He would have won a race if he had a good post, but it didn't happen. Nice horse.
Yes, he is. He did very well with him, and I guess Scott Goldberg is a partner with him, and Eric Terry's a partner too, correct?
Eric and Scott and I, we had it from the beginning, and then Jez Morrell bought in a small part, I don't know, maybe 6 or 8 months ago. So it's a nice partnership, and Eric's got so many good horses, it's tough to place them all.
Yeah. Rick was just talking about Eric staking his horses.
He doesn't do much staking for 2 and 3-year-olds. He's changing though. He's changing. He used to try to keep everything in Pennsylvania because, after all, he gets bonus awards in Pennsylvania as the breeder. But now he's taking everything into Kentucky and as well. And he's just got so many incredible mares. He has one of the best broodmare bands in the country, and he's a great partner and a really interesting person. Very statistically oriented. A real fun partner.
Correct. All right, Steve, you're awful quiet.
Well, just listening. It's always fun to hear the other side of the story. We kind of breed them and then sell them, and it's always fun to get insight into from the buyer's perspective. And then obviously when they do good, that's what really matters. And it's you never know. I think some trainers and some owners think that the breeders know. Oh, well, you're around them all the time. You're this, you're that, or whatever. But the good part in the horse racing game is there's a lot that you can't see, and that's with people. You don't know sometimes whether it's a basketball player, a football player, or even somebody in the office. Their determination will determine their fate sometimes, and they may not be the fastest. Or they, when you think of athletes, the whoever Larry Bird or whatever, he didn't jump the highest, he wasn't the fastest, he wasn't this, but his determination proved overwhelming to other athletes. And I think that horses fall into that category sometimes. The ones that really try, and then you got some that disappoint you because they have so much talent, but they don't have that determination to compete. So you never know, and I think that's why you can buy a foal, the 11th foal out of a mare that has produced a lot of nice horses, no world champions, for $75,000, and we get to talk on a show about it. So that's what I think that keeps people playing. It's a game that you obviously it helps when you have money to spend, but it's not the matter of every single expensive horse does well and every poor horse doesn't. You never know, and that's what we always want. We want the unknown because it wouldn't be as much fun if everybody knew which ones were going to be the best ones.
Yep, I always remember.
Money doesn't buy success in this business, with any certainty.
I always remember George Schulte at the sale basically saying, "Boy, I wish I could just pick out the best horse over here," and he was standing right in front of Romeo Hanover at the time.
Yeah, and the good part is there's so many stories. Every horse has a story, and that's kind of the fun part too. Whether it's the name, whether it's where you bought them, why you bought them, people, people will always remind me, because people will say to me, who do you like, who you don't like, or whatever, and it's always difficult to remember what you say to people or whatever. It's not like I say different things about different horses, but a lot of times they remind me, oh, you told me this or told me that or whatever, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, unfortunately. But you never, I always say, you never want the business to be 2 + 2 = 4, because when that happens, then the rich guys are going to win everything, and the game goes away, And so it obviously the payroll at the Yankees or whatever helps them to try to get to the World Series, but as you see, they don't always get there, no matter how much money they spend. And it's the same thing with the horses. The horses don't know what they cost, which is probably the best scenario that we have.
Yep, I always remember Hal Handel was telling me a story about it was I think it was Todd Fletcher, and he had the owner of the San Diego Chargers with him, and so Hal was there, so he just wanted to lean over just to hear what the pitch was that he was giving the owner to get him to buy horses and stuff. They were coming off a bad year, and so the pitch was, he said, well, you buy players, bid for players, from the draft, but over here you can buy the best picks.
Yeah, that's very, very true.
I think there's another huge factor in there, Steve, that determines a lot of times the outcome of the horse, and that's the trainer it goes to, because I've learned over the years, a lot of trainers, and I've lost track of how many I've had over the last 30 or 40 years, but sometimes they get horses, and if the horse doesn't fit, and this is just my own observation, nothing factual to support this, but if it doesn't fit their program and their way of doing things, they tend to want to blame the horse. That one's no good. He's no heart, no. And I've experienced that several times. Actually, recently, I have a horse out there racing in Kentucky. He's a 3-year-old, Funky Buddha. I don't know if you've heard of him. He was a June foal last year, and it was a little rough on him, but he's really come back this year. I think he'll be very competitive in the championship series out there. But Steve Elliott trained broking, and when he got up to the farm, they didn't like the way he was rigged, and he changed it around, and they couldn't get the horse around the track. He'd fight him on everything. And so the guys there were like, you got to Amish this thing. He's never going to be a racehorse. Well, after a few days of that, I sent him out to Tony Dinges, and who's very close friends with Steve. And you rigged this horse the way Steve had him rigged and trained the way he was training him, and he'll be just fine. Well, that's exactly what happened, and he's turned into a really, really nice horse. He just went over 200,000 lifetime. So he's really come on. So it did, like I said, it makes so much difference which trainer matches up with that horse, and you'll see that all the time. It's just another variable that we don't consider, that it's not always the horse that doesn't perform to their level where they could reach. A lot of times it's a trainer who is not as flexible in their thinking of how they're approaching it. Just my own observations. I'm sure you guys have experienced some of that yourselves.
No, it's definitely true what you say.
Yep.
100%.
Well, the joke I made one time, many years ago, as an overseas owner, and I said, and it goes back to what you're talking about, Rick, in a way. And I said, the owner said, "How did we do?" And I said, "I got good news and I got bad news." I said, "The good news is that the horse sold for $450,000." And he said, well, then what's the bad news? I said, well, where he went, you may not ever hear from him again. And so you know, as a breeder, that's the tough part, is that there are certain trainers that you would like your yearling to go to, and other ones that may not have as much success. Maybe they don't stake him as much. Maybe all the different variables when it comes to that. But you're 100% right, is that we judge the horse by the horse, and there's so many variables that fall under that category that determine the success or failure of a horse. And it can be as simple as a groom. A groom could be, you know, not matching up with the horse or whatever. And so there's so many variables, and I think that the key is trying to get yourself around the Steve Elliott's and all the, you know, trainers and people like that that really understand that the horses are individuals.
Yep, absolutely. I agree with that.
Your remark about the groom was very important too, Steve. That's a very good point. It makes a big difference. And how that trainer pays attention to what the groom is doing. You know, it's really, I've realized over the years how much difference it makes, and it makes me wonder how many good horses did I really have that would have been better if I knew then what I knew now. But you know, when you take a guy like Steve, who is very patient. Pete Blood was the same way. Mike Dieters does a great job with babies. And I think there's just certain guys out there, and I know there's a lot of others. These are just names I'm familiar with, and over the years, for many years, and that's kind of why I've stuck with them, because they're just so good bringing babies along and letting them do it their way and making them think it's their idea.
Yep. No, there's so many variables, but there again, that's the fun of the business, is that trying to. And I think sometimes when you unfortunately have to move a horse from a trainer, and it's very easy for that trainer to take it personally, right? I mean, why, I'm doing a great job, or I'm doing as good as I can, we're not having the success, but sometimes it's just as simple as a new groom, and we all can name horses that got moved that became better horses, and it may have nothing to do with the trainer at all. It could be the feed that they're feeding. It could be the, just whatever it is.
Not feeding.
So many different variables.
Yeah, different environment. Right. I agree with that 100%. All right, gentlemen, with that, I think I'm going to close the show out. We've gone over half an hour. I want to thank all of you guys for being on the show, Rick, Gordon, and Steve. I think you guys did great, and we now all know what Gobstopper stands for.
if we can remember it.
If we learned anything else.
All right.
Hopefully the name will get better.
Before you sign off, it's funny. I remember being at the sale years ago with Pete and I were walking around Harrisburg, and Joe Thompson came up from Winbak, and Pete, I don't know what they were talking, and Pete asked him, I think it was the time when Doo-Wop Hanover, and he asked something about him. He goes, I don't know that name. He goes, you make him famous and I'll remember his name. It was just the way he said it. So it just stuck with me.
Names get better. I always say names get better in the winner's circle.
All right. This week's Harness Racing Alumni Show is sponsored by Winbak Farm Canada's newest staffing, Captain's Quarters. The son of Captain Treacherous is standing his first season with a stud fee of $5,000 Canadian. For more information or to book a breeding, call 905-838-2145 or email stallions@winbakfarm.com. Captain's Quarters. Also, the Meadowlands Racetrack. Visit playthemeadowlands.com. And Hunterton Farm, breeding champions year after year. Visit huntertonfarm.com. For more than 4 decades, one name has stood above the rest in harness racing: John Campbell. A Hall of Fame driver, a champion, and one of the greatest to ever sit behind a standardbred. From the Hamiltonian to the Meadowlands Pace, John Campbell captured the sport's biggest races and became a legend both on and off the track. Now, the U.S. Harness Racing Alumni is proud to present a special tribute celebrating the incredible career and legacy of John Campbell. We're inviting businesses, organizations, horsemen, fans, and friends of harness racing to become a sponsor of this very special tribute. Help us honor a true legend of the sport and ensure his remarkable story is shared with harness racing fans everywhere. Become a sponsor of the John Campbell Tribute today. For sponsorship information, contact the U.S. Harness Racing Alumni at ustrots.com or call 631-896-9838. Joining us in celebrating a career and accomplishments and the legacy of John Campbell, one of harness racing's greatest all-time greats.
The Harness Racing Alumni Show